He opened the security app expecting to catch her breaking rules. 11 caregivers before her had failed. Stolen from him, given up on his daughters, left them more withdrawn than before. So when he saw Lauren kneeling in the music room with the girls in a circle around her, he almost closed the app. Then he heard it. 3 small voices. Singing. John's phone trembled in his hand. His breath caught in his throat. And the man who had accepted silence as permanent heard it shatter through the speakers of his own security system. If you're hooked in and ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comment where you are watching from. Because tomorrow I will be giving you another beautiful story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want you to miss it for anything. Now let's get into the story. 2 years ago, John Hayes lost the sound he loved most in the world. His wife Elena died in a car accident on Highway 1. The girls were in the back seat. Grace, Hope, and Faith, barely 3 years old, strapped into their car seats when the semi-truck crossed the median. Elena died on impact. The girls survived without a scratch. But something inside them broke that day. They stopped talking. Not gradually. Not slowly. The moment the paramedics pulled them from the wreckage, they went silent. At the hospital, doctors ran tests, checked for brain injuries, examined vocal cords. Everything functioned perfectly. The girls could speak. They just wouldn't. Selective mutism, the specialist said. Her voice clinical and detached. Trauma-induced. The brain's way of protecting itself from what it witnessed. Will they speak again? John asked, his voice hollow. The doctor hesitated. It's uncertain. Some children recover in weeks. Others take years. And some. She trailed off, but John heard what she didn't say. Some never speak again. Weeks passed. Then months. The girls moved through their days like beautiful ghosts in their Pacific estate. Grace with her careful way of arranging toys in perfect lines. Hope who stared at her mother's photographs for hours. Faith who stood at windows watching clouds drift past without making a sound. They communicated through gestures only they understood. A silent language born from shared trauma. John hired the best therapists money could buy. Speech pathologists from Stanford. Child psychologists who specialized in trauma. Behavioral specialists who'd written books on selective mutism. They tried everything. Play therapy, art therapy, cognitive behavioral techniques. Nothing worked. The girls remained silent. Then came the caregivers. The first lasted 3 weeks before quitting. They're too unsettling, she said. The way they just stare. It's like they're not even there. The second spent more time on her phone than with the girls. John fired her after reviewing footage of her ignoring Faith's attempts to show her a drawing. The third seemed perfect. Patient, gentle, experienced with special needs children. Then John discovered she'd been posting about the tragic mute triplets on social media, sharing photos without permission, exploiting his daughter's trauma for likes and sympathy comments. After that, something broke inside him. One caregiver stole Elena's jewelry. Another shared confidential medical information with the press. One tried to sell her story to a magazine. Inside the silent mansion of tech billionaire John Hayes. Each one came with references and left with his trust shattered on the floor. John stopped seeing people. He saw threats. He installed cameras in every room, every hallway, every corner of the estate. He watched the footage at night, reviewing interactions frame by frame, looking for the lie, the exploitation, the betrayal he knew was coming. Control became his only shield against a world that had already taken too much. So when Lauren Baldwin walked through his front door on a Tuesday morning, 29 years old, warm smile, guitar case slung over her shoulder, John didn't see a person. He saw the 12th failure waiting to happen. No singing, he told her, not looking up from her background check file. No music therapy, no improvisation, no emotional attachment. Follow the therapeutic silence protocol exactly. The specialists have made their recommendations clear. Lauren nodded slowly. I understand, Mr. Hayes. But she didn't understand. Or maybe she understood too well. Because the moment John left the room, Lauren pulled out her guitar. She sat on the floor of the playroom at the girls' level and played one gentle chord. And 3 silent little girls, who hadn't responded to anything in 2 years, turned their heads toward the sound. John watched it happen through the camera feed in his office, his finger hovering over the intercom button to stop her. But he didn't press it, because for the first time since the accident, he saw something flicker across his daughter's faces. Interest. Lauren didn't know it yet, but she had just lit a match in a house that had been dark for 2 years. And John Hayes, the man who controlled everything, was about to discover that some things, like music, like hope, like the human voice, refused to be controlled. By week 2, Lauren had broken nearly every protocol John had established. She taught the girls signs, not the complex ASL the speech therapist had attempted, but simple, playful gestures: happy, music, dance, love. John watched through the cameras as his daughter's small hands began forming words their voices couldn't. Hope signed happy when Lauren played guitar. Faith signed music and pointed to the instrument. Grace combined signs, music then love, her face serious with the effort of communication. Lauren brought colorful scarves, silk in jewel tones that caught the light. She'd put on soft instrumental music and let the girls wave them through the air, their bodies moving in ways John had forgotten they could. Dancing. They were dancing. She read stories with exaggerated expressions, voices for every character, hands gesturing wildly. And the girls smiled. Actually smiled. Grace's dimples appeared for the first time in 2 years. Hope's eyes crinkled at the corners. Even Faith's solemn face softened into something that looked almost like joy. Lauren created a feelings chart with simple drawn faces: happy, sad, scared, angry, tired, excited. Throughout the day, the girls would approach it and point. Hope. Tired after lunch. Grace. Excited before music time. Faith. Sad, her small finger resting on the frowning face, though she wouldn't sign why. John's nightly monitoring became compulsive. He'd sit in his office until 3, 4 in the morning, fast-forwarding through hours of footage to find the moments where his daughters seemed almost alive. But he'd close the laptop with his jaw clenched, telling himself this was temporary. Lauren was building them up for devastating disappointment. Silence was safer. Silence couldn't break their hearts again. Thursday of week 3, he watched the bedtime camera feed. Lauren sat between the 3 small beds, the room dim except for a nightlight shaped like a moon. She didn't read a story. Instead, she hummed. John's hand froze on the mouse. He knew that melody. Elena's lullaby, the one she'd sung every night, the one that had died with her. His chest constricted as Lauren's soft humming filled the monitor speakers. Hope's eyes drifted closed. Faith pulled her blanket to her chin. And Grace's mouth moved. No sound emerged, but her lips shaped the melody, following Lauren's hum like a ghost trying to remember how to sing. Lauren noticed. She didn't react, didn't push, didn't make it significant. She simply reached over and gently took Grace's hand, kept humming, let the moment exist without weight. John closed the laptop because his vision had blurred too much to see. John found them in the music room on a Friday afternoon, 3 weeks to the day since Lauren had arrived. She'd arranged cushions in a semicircle to create a makeshift stage. The girls sat within it, each holding stuffed animals. Grace with a bear, Hope with a rabbit, Faith with a small elephant. They were performing some kind of silent play, their hands moving in signs and gestures, the animals dancing through a story only they understood. The girls were animated, engaged, their faces alive with expression. It was beautiful. It terrified him. "What do you think you're doing?" John's voice cut through the room like a blade. Lauren stood calmly, placing her hand on Grace's shoulder, giving them ways to express themselves. The specialists said therapeutic silence. John's voice rose despite himself. Minimal stimulation until the trauma processing is complete. You're overstimulating them, filling their environment with chaos. The specialists said that a year ago, Mr. Hayes. Lauren's tone remained steady. Your daughters are ready for more. They're trying to communicate, you're just not listening. The words landed like a slap. His jaw clenched. You're filling their heads with false hope. They're mute. That's the reality we're living in. They're not mute. Lauren's voice stayed gentle, but something steel-edged entered it. They're silent. There's a difference. Mute means can't. Silent means won't, or haven't yet. And children who won't speak do so because they don't feel safe enough. Maybe they need to see someone believe they can. You don't know what you're. I know what I see. 3 brilliant little girls who have so much to say and no one who thinks they can say it. John's hands trembled. He looked at his daughters, who'd gone completely still during the argument. The animation had drained from their faces. Grace's eyes were wide, filled with something that looked like fear. Of him. His own daughter was afraid of him. Lauren knelt beside Grace, her hands moving in signs John didn't understand. Grace signed back, her small hand shaking. Lauren looked up at him, her expression carefully neutral. She's asking if you're angry at her. She thinks she did something wrong by playing. John's throat closed. The room tilted slightly. He couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't stay in this space where his daughter thought his anger was her fault. He turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing down the marble hallway. But the guilt followed him like a shadow he couldn't outrun. John sat in his office at 2 a.m, the termination letter glowing on his screen. Dear Ms. Baldwin, effective immediately. His finger hovered over the send button. He couldn't press it. Instead, he minimized the email and pulled up the evening security footage. Lauren had stayed late, past the end of her shift. The bedroom camera showed her sitting on the floor between the 3 small beds, a storybook open in her lap. Her voice drifted through the speakers, soft and musical, reading about 3 sisters who went on an adventure to find a lost treasure. The girls were supposed to be asleep. Their eyes were open, watching her. When Lauren finished, she closed the book and leaned over to kiss each forehead. Grace, then hope, then faith. She whispered something, and John increased the volume to hear. Your mama loved you so much. And I know she'd want you to sing all the beautiful songs in your hearts. When you're ready. No rush. Hope's small hand reached out and touched Lauren's face, a gesture so tender John's vision blurred. He closed the laptop with shaking hands and opened his browser instead. His fingers moved across the keyboard. Selective mutism trauma recovery. Then voice restoration after witnessing death. Then music therapy for mute children. Hours dissolved. The sky outside his window shifted from black to deep blue to gray. Study after study appeared on his screen. Research from Johns Hopkins, Stanford, the National Institute of Mental Health. Children with selective mutism responded to patient, non-pressured communication through alternative methods. Art therapy, music therapy, sign language. Trauma could freeze the voice, but neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, could restore it. The key was creating safety, building confidence through nonverbal expression first. Everything Lauren had been doing aligned with cutting-edge therapeutic approaches. And he'd been fighting her at every step. John's hand trembled as he opened his desk drawer, moved aside folders and pens, and found what he'd buried 2 years ago, Elena's journal. The leather cover was soft with age. He hadn't been able to open it since the funeral. He opened it now. Her handwriting filled the pages. Observations about their daughters, little moments she'd wanted to remember. One entry stopped his heart. Grace has the sweetest voice. She'll sing to her dolls for hours. Hope hums while she colors. Faith makes up songs about everything. I hope they never stop singing. Music is their language. John pressed the journal to his chest and finally let himself cry. Dr. Reeves arrived Thursday morning for her biweekly session, her briefcase in hand and professional smile in place. John watched through the cameras as she worked with each girl individually in the therapy room. With Grace, Dr. Reeves began the standard assessment. Picture cards, emotion recognition, simple cognitive tasks. But Grace did something she'd never done before. She signed. Her small hands formed deliberate shapes: happy, music, love, communicating complex emotions she'd never been able to express in 18 months of therapy. Dr. Reeves's eyebrows rose. She signed back. Who taught you this? Grace pointed toward the door, toward wherever Lauren was in the house. With Hope, Dr. Reeves tried the usual exercises. Hope responded appropriately, tracking objects, following instructions. But then she stood abruptly and pulled Dr. Reeves by the hand to the music corner. She pointed at the guitar Lauren had left there. Dr. Reeves picked it up, strummed a chord. Hope's entire face transformed, lit from within. She began moving to the rhythm, her body swaying, her hands dancing through the air, expressing everything her voice wouldn't. Faith surprised everyone. She approached Dr. Reeves with the feelings chart Lauren had created, pointed deliberately at Happy, and then picked up the photo of Lauren that sat on the bookshelf. After the session, Dr. Reeves appeared at John's office door. He minimized the security feed on his screen. "Mr. Hayes, I need to talk to you about their caregiver." She sat without being invited. Whatever she's doing, the signing, the music, the emotional connection, it's working. I'm seeing more communication progress in 3 weeks than I've seen in 18 months of traditional therapy. I want to adjust my treatment plan to incorporate her methods. John's throat tightened. "You think this is sustainable?" "I think this is exactly what they need. Your daughters are communicating, Mr. Hayes. Not with voices yet, but with intention. With engagement. With joy. That's the foundation everything else builds on." After she left, John sat alone in his office as afternoon light slanted through the windows. He pulled up 2 video files, split screen. Left side, Lauren's first day, 4 weeks ago. Right side, yesterday. The difference was staggering. 4 weeks ago, 3 silent girls who barely made eye contact, who moved through space like ghosts, who played separately in the same room, isolated in their shared trauma. Yesterday, 3 girls signing to each other, dancing together to Lauren's guitar, sitting close with their heads bent over a storybook, engagement bright in their eyes. They were still silent, but they were no longer absent. John wandered his house at 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, unable to stay still. His feet carried him down hallways he usually avoided, past family photos he'd turned face down, until he stood outside a door he hadn't opened in 2 years. Elena's music room. The key still hung on its hook beside the frame. His hand shook as he unlocked the door. Inside, dust motes drifted through moonlight. Her piano sat in the corner, covered with a white sheet like a ghost. Her guitar hung on the wall, strings probably out of tune by now. Shelves held sheet music she'd collected. Classical, jazz, folk songs, lullabies. This was where she'd sung to the girls every night before bed. Photos lined one shelf. Elena holding infant triplets, each wrapped in a different colored blanket. Pink, yellow, blue. Elena at the piano with 1-year-old Grace on her lap, tiny fingers reaching for the keys. The girls dancing in a circle while Elena played guitar, their faces bright with laughter. John sank onto the piano bench. He pulled away the sheet, revealing ivory keys that gleamed in the darkness. He hadn't played since she died. Music was their thing, hers and his together. Without her, the silence had felt like honoring her absence. He pressed one key. Middle C. The note echoed through the empty room, pure and clear. Then another. And another. Before he realized what he was doing, his fingers were playing the lullaby. The one Elena sang, the one Lauren had been humming. His hands remembered what his heart had tried to forget. The melody filled the room, filled the spaces between his ribs, cracked something open in his chest that had been sealed shut for 2 years. Tears streamed down his face. He'd been so focused on protecting his daughters from more pain that he'd been starving them of what they needed most. Music, joy, connection, memories of their mother. Elena wouldn't want them silent. She'd want them singing, laughing, alive. He'd been honoring her death instead of celebrating what she'd loved about life. John pulled out his laptop right there on the piano bench, the lullaby still echoing in his ears. He began making calls he should have made months ago. Emails to specialists in pediatric trauma recovery, music therapists who worked with selective mutism, child psychologists who focused on grief in young children. He created a plan. Not to control this time. To support. Whatever Lauren needed, whatever the girls needed, he would provide it. No more cameras between them. No more distance. No more silence masquerading as safety. John was in a video conference call Friday afternoon when his phone buzzed with a sound alert from the music room. He almost ignored it. Lauren often played music during afternoon activities. But something made him look. He opened the security app and his breath caught. Lauren had created a concert. The girls sat in a semicircle on cushions, draped in the colorful scarves they used for dancing. Lauren held her guitar, and in front of each girl she'd placed a small percussion instrument. A tambourine, a drum, a triangle. "All right, my beautiful performers," Lauren said softly. "Remember how we've been humming this song in our hearts? Today, if you feel ready, you can let it out. Or you can play your instruments. Or you can just listen. Whatever feels right." She began playing the lullaby. Elena's lullaby. Grace's hand moved to the tambourine. She shook it gently, keeping rhythm. Hope touched the drum, one soft beat, then another. Faith held the triangle but didn't strike it, just clutched it like something precious. Then Lauren sang, her voice clear and sweet. John's hand trembled holding the phone. On his computer screen, someone was asking him a question. He couldn't hear them anymore. Lauren reached the chorus. She closed her eyes, voice full of emotion. And then, Grace's mouth opened. A small sound emerged, barely audible through the phone speaker. She was humming. Lauren's eyes snapped open, but she didn't stop playing, didn't draw attention to it. Just kept singing, kept the space safe. Hope joined next, her hum slightly stronger, more confident. Faith's eyes welled with tears, but her small voice added to the harmony. Fragile as glass, real as breathing. 3 little girls, silent for 2 years, singing the song their mother used to sing. John's phone dropped from his hand. He tried to catch it, missed. It clattered on the desk as his video call continued unnoticed, voices asking if he was still there. His legs gave out and he sank to his knees beside his chair. A sound tore from his throat. Half sob, half prayer. On the phone screen lying sideways on his desk, he watched Lauren gather all 3 girls into her arms, everyone crying and laughing together. She signed something to them. They signed back, their small hands moving with joy. Then Grace did something that shattered him completely. She looked directly at the camera, as if she knew her father was watching. Her lips formed a word. No sound came out yet, but the intention was unmistakable. "Daddy." She was calling for him. John ran. He didn't remember leaving his office or crossing the house. He just knew he was suddenly at the music room door, hand on the handle, frozen for the last time. Through the door he could hear them. 3 small voices singing with Lauren, fragile and uncertain but real. He pushed the door open. 4 heads turned toward him. The girls stopped singing immediately, old fear flashing across their faces. But Lauren didn't let go of them. She just looked at John with that steady, compassionate gaze. "We were just having a concert," she said gently. "Would you like to join us?" John couldn't speak. He crossed the room on shaking legs and dropped to his knees in front of his daughters. Grace shrank back slightly. He'd been absent for so long, she didn't know how to read him anymore. "Please," John whispered, his voice breaking. "Please don't stop singing. I've been waiting 2 years to hear your voices." Hope tilted her head, studying him with Elena's dark eyes. "I'm sorry," John said, tears streaming freely now. "I'm so sorry. I thought keeping quiet would keep you safe. I thought if I controlled everything, nobody could hurt you again. But I hurt you by disappearing. Your mama," his voice cracked. "Your mama loved music. She loved your voices. And I took that away by being afraid." Faith, the youngest, the one who stared out windows, suddenly stood and walked to him. She placed her small hand on his wet cheek. No words, but the gesture said everything. John pulled all 3 girls into his arms, holding them like he should have been holding them for 2 years. Lauren started to stand to give them space, but John reached out and caught her hand. "Stay," he said. "Please. You brought them back. You brought us all back." Lauren nodded and sat beside them. "Can you teach me?" John asked quietly. "The songs you sing. The signs you use. I want to learn. I want to be present." "Of course," Lauren said. She picked up her guitar and handed it to him. John's hands shook as he took it, settled it against his chest. He hadn't played since Elena died, but his fingers found the strings. He began the lullaby, slow and imperfect. The girls watched him with wide eyes. Then Lauren's voice joined his, steady and sure. And then, miracle of miracles. Grace hummed. Then hope. Then faith. The four of them, creating music together in the room that had been locked in silence for 2 years. John looked at his daughters through tears and saw Elena in their faces. Her hope, her love of song, her belief that music heals. "I hear you," he whispered between verses. "I hear you, and I'm never going away again." Afternoon light poured through tall windows, illuminating a father, 3 small daughters, and the woman who refused to accept silence as permanent. A guitar lay between them. Scarves and instruments scattered around like evidence of play, and filling every corner of that once locked room. Sound. Fragile, imperfect, beautiful sound. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely enjoy the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.